What's happening, Blades? I'm back again. Had a chance to decompress from depressing run of them 3 results. Bit of time to reflect. Don't think I've been harsh on any of my sort of feedback. I think performances had started tailing off prior to them poor results coming, but we've had a week's break now since that woeful performance at Stoke. But it were a very makeshift team. Let's be fair, playing an unfamiliar formation to begin with. I thought we didn't look like a team, but thankfully, we've had a little bit of positive news. I say a little bit because it's tinged with Sander being out, Jaden being out, both till after World Cup. But ANEL's back, which gives us more balance, I think, across the back. So, first thing I want to think about is, has Sander played his last game for us? If it takes him until after World Cup, we're into the January transfer window. We know that there were a lot of interest and he very, very nearly went. Where these transfer wrangles tend to go, it may play out through January, so we may get a little bit more of him if he's back in time to fit to play in January. I think he's done something to his ligament, so whether he's going to be fit or not, I don't know. He may have played his last game for us. And there's 2 ways to look at that, really. I mean, if you think that we're a better team without Sander in, I think you need to think again, to be honest. I know he splits the opinion, but I think we can all agree that when he turns up and he's on it, no one can live with him in division. The problem people have, and myself included, it's frustrating sometimes, is the consistency or lack of. If he were a consistent performer for us, it absolutely, it's a no-brainer that he's way too good for us, essentially. But if we'd have signed him for 5 million, then some games you wouldn't have thought it were worth any more than that. So I get both camps, but for me, and for anybody really that's seen him in his pomp, brilliant player. But looking at the other side, if we sell him and we get, say, 20 million in for him, is it a good deal? I would say probably yes at this stage. He's not guaranteeing us wins when he's in 11, and I could argue that ANEL's been a better performer than him this season. I mean, stats show that in terms of when ANEL's in team and when he's not. But if that 20 million that we were to get for Sander, and this is all hypotheticals, but if that 20 million tidies up the futures of Reece, Norrington, Davis, gets Ndiaye tied down, maybe with a release clause, because I think we've got to be realistic with Ndiaye. But, and maybe gets us, I know we're looking at Kone as a replacement for Sander as a cheaper alternative, but I don't know if we need him. To be fair, I mean, we rave about this squad depth, and we're now going to have to manage without Sander. But we've got McAtee to come in, we've got Kadra to come in. Neither of them, obviously they've had flashes, but neither of them have pulled up any trees. But have they had a consistent, fair running team? You could argue they haven't, and this will be their chance to grab the shirt. Shame for Bogle, because obviously it was what could have been really. He came back, he looked great, and then from what Eki was saying, he's ruptured. It's a bit of metal that slipped from his op, and then it's obviously his knees reacting around it, so they need to open it up again and take it out, which is better than it could have been, but obviously it's an extended period out again for him. Just on Eki as well, before I come on to what I think my team should be on Saturday, tomorrow. I thought he spoke really well in press conference again, which he always tends to do. But if you haven't seen him on Alan Biggs had him on his YouTube show this week, and I thought he spoke really well on there as well. Nothing majorly linked to current, but what he did say was, I mean, anybody that thinks or thought, and there'll only be a few dregs left, that thought he was a cheap option and a yes man, well, go watch that interview and it'll squash any of those theories, really, because he again said exactly what he thought, and you've got to hold your hands up and say fair play, because a lot of us agreed with this, talking about Chris Wilder and how he left and he thought it were a disgrace how all that were handled. I think whatever you think about Chris Wilder, and I know he now divides opinion, which is beyond me really, considering what he gave to our club, but that's for another conversation. Whatever you think about the way Wilder left, you've got to agree that I don't think the club did themselves any favours in terms. It were a complete lack of class. And Eki sort of basically said same himself on Alan Biggs' show. So give it a watch if you haven't seen it already. Moving on to Blackpool. So I don't know going forward whether, because obviously I've had a few comments about my scouting background and how did I get in, and I can do a video on that and things like that, like I've talked about. But whether you want a bit more of an analysis on upcoming opponents, which I can look at. But for me, in this league, it's more about what we do. So I can look at Blackpool and I can say that, you know, they tend to play 4-3-3 with two floating tens, not too dissimilar up top like we are, in and around Medine. You'd have thought they'd have dropped off after Josh Bowler left, but they've been holding their own. Although defence looks quite leaky. I think it's 16 or 17 they've conceded this year. As I say, if you want me to go into a more formal breakdown, then I can do going forward, but it's all there for us to get back on the wagon this week, and I'm confident we will do. I think obviously we've had the two new injury worries with Jaden and Sander, but Osborne's come back, which were great. He's never going to be a firm starter for me in Aussie, but as a utility man who can play where we need him to play, times like this when injuries are stretching us, I think he's a vital part to have in and around the squad. But it's ANEL coming back that's the huge bonus for us, and I just hope he's fit enough to play. I think he is, going off what Eki's been saying in presses and stuff. So for me, obviously it's Wes. I'd go ANEL, Egan, Bash, probably right to left, just because of the way they were playing before ANEL went down injured. But obviously you can switch Bash and ANEL. Baldock's back, so Baldock right wing back, Reese left wing back, and that's a really solid back five. I know we're sort of thin on ground injury wise, but in terms of as best five, we're not far away there. Doyle and Norwood in middle, 60-minute Doyle, as Eki likes him to be, but I'd like to see him get a few more minutes in tank. Love Tommy Doyle, but and then for me, I don't think Kadra's done enough, if I'm honest, to be the next one in line for Sander, although I won't be surprised if Eki opts for him. I'd probably go McAtee and Ndiaye behind McBurney. Only other option you could have is have McBurney as the central striker with Ndiaye and Brewster off, or McBurney and Brewster with Ndiaye off. So there's a few options there. I'd probably opt for McAtee just as a cleaner. He's a more pure midfielder than Brewster in a 10 when he should really be a striker. If you're not playing two up top, it's Brewster or McBurney for me. And Ndiaye, we tend to lean to more being a striker these days, but I think he's feared more in the pockets and in the 10 just off the 9. So that's the team I'd go with. McAtee just behind Ndiaye and McBurney, and see how we go. I don't think Sharp's been sharp enough since coming back. You know, he looks like he could do with a few minutes front bench. It's never, you know, it's always great to see Billy coming in off bench. It's never a disappointment, even if he's in team on Saturday. I won't be disappointed, but just need to see a little bit more from him. He's by far best finisher we've had in the last 20 years, but it just looks a little bit off the pace for me at the minute, and obviously Basham needs to step his game up as well, so because we've run out of backup options. But I fancy us tomorrow to get back on the horse. 3 points. I'm going to go for a 3-0. And hope to God I'm right. We might not be top at league come 3 o'clock. I think QPR kick off at 12:30, and they're on the same points as us. Everybody's bunched right up as you'd expect. 3 points between us and the 7th. So being top at league don't mean much anymore, certainly not as much as it did do when we were first there. And 5 points clear of 3rd and all this, well, we're 3 points clear of 7th. So yeah, I think it probably suits us being a chaser better, although we'd always want to be top. I think it suits us, particularly with injuries that we've had. I don't think you can you can grumble when you look at it as objectively in terms of what we've had to go through with injury list. So 3-0 for me tomorrow, and fingers crossed it happens. Up the Blades.